Good day, everyone. I'm your host, James Hicks from HicksNewMedia, and welcome to Perspectives in Focus. This is a show where we highlight the people, industries, ideas, and technology that are making positive strides within society today. Today, my guest is Mr. Gustavo Razzetti. He's a CEO, he's an author, recently wrote a book called Remote Not Distant: Design a Company Culture That Will Help You Thrive in a Hybrid Workplace. Love that title. I selfishly want to have the conversation myself to hear his thoughts and his best practices, but this is definitely going to be something rewarding for you as well. Gustavo is a sought after speaker and workplace cultural consultant who facilitates conversations to drive cultural transformation. He's the creator of the Culture Design Canvas, which is a visual and actionable method for intentionally designing workplace culture. His insights have been featured in a number of places: Psychology Today, New York Times, Forbes, and BBC. Sit back, folks. This is going to be a great conversation, and I hope you find some value. Mr. Razzetti, coming from the Windy City, which is not only windy, but we can talk about that too, right? Chicago. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, James. How are you?
Fantastic,
Nice
fantastic.
to
Look,
join you.
I'm like I said in the monologue, selfishly looking forward to this conversation myself because uh, I'm in the enterprise technology field, and we talk a lot about now coming back to work, working remotely, the hybrid workplace, and things of that nature. So, the topics, the subject matter that you have within this book, and kind of what you do at Culture Design Canvas is incredibly fascinating to me. So, but before we get in that, I gave the 35,000 foot level kind of presentation overview of who you are. I always like to have folks tell their origin story themselves. So, if you don't mind, if you can go into that, sir. Who is Gustavo Razzetti?
Okay, where do I get started? I mean, from a personal standpoint, the thing that defines me the most is I like cooking. And when I say cooking, I've been cooking since I was 12 or even younger. And I like to cook cuisines from all over the world. So I don't have any particular preference. And I learned that and apply the same skill that give me a couple of ingredients and I'm going to improvise something. And I've been using that approach in my personal life, in my professional life. So I worked for over 20 years in marketing and communications. I was a leader myself, and at some point I realized, hey, I I need to focus on the culture side of business because companies don't lack ideas, they don't lack solutions. What they lack is a culture that's conducive that helps those ideas see the light of day. That's why I started my company 6 years ago, and here I am.
Awesome. Now, I will admit, first when you first said that, I thought you said cocaine. So I was like, wait a minute. He's like, cooking, or like, so you don't know what kind of show you're going to come on here, right? You said cooking, and I
Exactly.
said, wait a minute. Gustavo said he likes cook. Wait a minute.
You told me to be honest, and I
And,
can be.
yeah, wrong kind of show, wrong kind of show.
Mhm. Yeah.
Man, I really like that, right? And speaking of culture, right? So I gave HP 20 years of my life. I gave Apple 10 years of my life, and those are two companies that really speak highly of driving culture, right? Speak highly of individual worth and things of that nature. Being able to be a quality corporate citizen, a quality citizen amongst themselves as well. But let me ask you, why did you feel that company culture amongst individuals, amongst the employees and employers, was such a something that you needed to tackle yourself?
For two reasons, going back to my story. First, when I was a regular employee making up the ranks in different organizations, I suffered from bad cultures.
Hmm.
But then I also was guilty as charged. When I became the leader, I made some of the same mistakes that other leaders made, and say, "Well, what's going on?" And I think that we need to understand what's culture. Culture can basically get the best or the worst out of people. There's an exercise we do usually with teams in which we ask them revisit all the company cultures, all the places that you work throughout your career, and what type of culture help you do your best work, and which type of culture didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that drives a lot of conversation because it helps turn culture into something more concrete. It's not just about having a set of values or purpose. It's more about the whole system, the rules in place, the norms, how decisions are made, how distributed is decision-making rights for people to have autonomy and move fast. And all those things influence how we work and where we thrive and where we suffer.
Interesting. So, how are we doing now? How are we as a culture, as a society? I'll scale it down, and I won't try to boil the ocean, but I'll say U.S. economy. How are we doing now? And specifically, and I say now, since the pandemic, since after the world shut down, and we're trying to go back to the offices. We're trying to get back. We got pretty comfortable, and for some folks, I think even pretty productive working remotely. But that can be a pro and a con and kind of detrimental to an overall organization's culture. So again, let me ask again, how do you think we're doing now that the world is starting to come back into face-to-face conversations, things of that nature, in terms of cultivating culture for these hybrid type of workplaces?
I think we're doing not so good, but not as
Mm-hmm.
bad as many media are trying to portray. I mean, when people talk about going back to the office, it feels that the pendulum is moving from one extreme to another. But the other day, for example, the New York Times published an article that shows that there's so much empty office space in New York that you could actually put 26 Empire State buildings there. So we're talking about 26 skyscrapers empty of office space. So people are not returning to the office as fast as some people like us to believe, for many reasons. First, teams, to your point, have demonstrated that they can work as productively, if not more, when they have flexibility.
Mm.
There are many benefits
Yeah.
for flexibility for women or people that are caregivers, for different minority groups or underserved groups that feel safer working from home, but also need that flexibility. We have companies like Spotify that or Allstate, an insurance company here from the Midwest, that their diversity goals kind of skyrocketed because of offering flexible work. So they have more women's, like Spotify triple the amount of women in executive positions, and Allstate double the amount of minorities working at the company because they started offering that flexibility. So I
Wow.
think that it's not a one size fits all. I think the most important question when we talk about the return to the office, for me, it's more about integrating the office as one element of culture, and understand that if you want people back, they need to have a reason that justifies the commute, not only the cost of commuting, but also the emotional toll and the time to be in the office rather than work from anywhere else.
Man, you get it. Right. That's it right there. Because think about it. There's so much time that's spent wasted on that commute piece, right? So again, I'm in Northern California, and either jumping on Amtrak or jumping on I-80 to get from work. Okay, see, this could be a whole counseling session for me,
Yeah, I
because
know.
I am I am much more productive of either starting the day earlier and having shorter gaps that I don't have to allocate for travel, that I don't have to allocate for traffic and things of that nature. But I ask and I wonder if that's a good thing, right? Are we now, even though we're hybrid and we can be slightly more productive, are we at a detriment to ourselves because we're limiting that gap that we have, right? In terms of, I can be available from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 o'clock a.m. as opposed to 45 minutes to breathe and listen to the radio while I'm commuting. You know what I mean? Are we
Yeah,
over rotating now that we have this capability, now that we have this option of being more flexible and being more hybrid?
I think it all depends on who you speak to, but I always want to look into actual facts and research to basically explain what's happening. And many studies are showing that people that are working either fully remote or in a hybrid arrangement, they're working close to 1 hour more per day.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they are more, from a company standpoint, hey, they're putting more time, they're being more productive. That's a different conversation if they're productive or not. However, on their hand, because they are saving commute time and other stuff, people are investing more personal time. So I think that we're in a, when well handled, we're getting the best of both worlds. People are spending more time in cooking, exercising, going for a walk, hobbies, whatever, but also they're working more. So it's a good win-win for both the
Yeah.
individual and the organization. And that's why I'm struggling to understand why some leaders are so upset. They want people full time in the office. My point is, we shouldn't see working remotely and working from a physical same environment as opposites. We need to integrate them both, and we need to understand when does it make sense for people to get together and when do we need people to work remotely. For me, the solution is not work 3 days from the office, 2 from home, because it's kind of recreating the 9 to 5 rigid schedule,
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
let's let the work dictate how we work. If we are working in a huge project that requires innovation, requires creativity, maybe we need to spend the full week together, not just a couple of days. But then maybe next week we don't see each other, and that's fine as well.
Man, listen. I'm gonna bring you down here to Silicon Valley, and I'm just gonna throw you into a handful of conference rooms and let you have this conversation because that's good stuff. Let me ask you this, and now I'm going slightly off script, but I'm wondering the advent of hybrid work, the advent of post-pandemic Teams, WebEx, Zoom, things of that nature. Your thoughts on are we using that too much? Have we gotten to the point where we rely and we're so comfortable now? Again, just using remote technologies as opposed to again wanting to meet someone at an office or at a coffee shop. Do you see kind of a decrease in that face to face personal communication and engagement amongst the workforce now that we have
Yeah,
all these other technologies that are available for us to communicate with?
definitely. I think that we are becoming too technology dependent, right? And that's not good, because once again, many of the issues that we have in terms of collaboration are people problems, not and technology accelerates both the good and the bad within a team. So we need to watch out. One thing that happens, even when working with teams remotely, we always try to bring back the physicality. Sometimes we say, hey, we're not going to use Mural or any other collaboration tool. Bring a piece of paper, write something, share it to the camera, or sometimes working with the cameras off so people can reflect and have some time to think differently, to move, having a meeting, walking, so people can experience that physicality and not being always through technology, the way we interact with each other.
So if you did have that opportunity, let's just go ahead and throw that out there and say if you got on a plane, got on United and flew from Chicago over here to Northern California, and you had an opportunity to sit down with 20 top executives, regardless of the industry, and say, you're doing this, whatever this is, X, Y, and Z, you're doing this wrong,
Yeah.
right? How could they manage hybrid work, hybrid employment, hybrid teams better and be more productive? What would you say? 2, 3 things that you would say to those executives of how they can manage their environments better?
The most important thing I would tell them, or I tell my clients, is stop trying to dictate how the team should work. Stop thinking in
Mm,
one size fits all, because every team has different dynamics. So, and every person is different. So, for example, sales, maybe you need to spend more time working with your customers. You need to visit your customers. You need to stay. So
yeah.
maybe the sales team need to see each other more frequently than other teams. If you work in operations or back office, I think it's important to stop trying to dictate a one size fits all approach and let teams define how they want to work based on the nature of their projects, the type of work they do, the type of people they serve.
So it's a top down approach as opposed to again a lot of times we have these shadow organizations. We have the invisible dotted lines where
Yeah.
Gustavo, you're the team lead or you're the most senior person. We're gonna follow and do what you do as opposed to what the manager sitting in the corner office. Do you believe that the core unit of the tactical team, right, the actual folks
Yeah.
doing a lot of times the work, should they lead in terms of how that should be established? Just go in, not have a mutiny, but go in and have that conversation with leadership, or should leadership lead by example in terms of how that hybrid team could work most effectively?
I think we need to, rather than a top down approach, we need
Mm,
to create one that's in or out. So let the teams decide. But also, for example, even within teams, we have let's say CTO or CMO, each leader are detecting how their teams work, but no one thinking in cross collaboration. So we're thinking like we're increasing the silos, but having rules that apply my department, this department, rather than, okay, if we're all working, you and I are working the same project, we need to define how we work together, regardless if you are from marketing, I'm from sales or operations or tech.
Okay. And that would work again, regardless of industry. I guess because again, I've got decades or so in the enterprise technology field and dealing with engineers a lot of time. Well, we're kind of crazy bunch. But dealing with
Yeah.
maybe a manufacturing plant or accounting firm. Do you see a different type of a conversation depending on the industry about building effective hybrid teams and hybrid workplaces?
Definitely. The big question, first of all, it's like in many industries, many leaders thought, oh, we cannot adopt remote or flexible work.
Mm.
People have find a way to do it. But also, even if you work on the technology side, don't assume that everyone in the tech industry wants to work, for example, remote. There are younger people that like to work, have visibility to learn from observation. So I think that the career path in which you are also dictates your preferences. The industry definitely changes. One thing that's funny, it's we work with lots of manufacturing companies, not only tech, as a consulting firm, and in manufacturing, people have flexibility because people work different shifts. They're used to managing people working different schedules, so they're used to a more complex kind of world than those that work in typical office or HQ kind of settings.
Got you. So the attraction to the book, right? The reception of the book, remote, not distance. How has that been, right? Again, because you're coming in with almost some are common sense principles, but some
Mhm.
are again not now that the world is going in a different direction. I just wonder if they're being met with stalemates or things of that nature. Or are you being seen as someone providing value to again all those organizations, all those different types of industries with the principles that you're offering? How is the reception to the guiding principles in the book been?
Perfect. I think the reception overall has been great. I'm super happy, more than I expected. And the most important thing is I'm not trying to sell a model. And I think that's something that people
Mm.
appreciate a lot. So I'm presenting like a roadmap for companies to rethink how they want to operate. There are certain steps, but also I'm providing options. So for example, when it comes to hybrid models, I present 5 different hybrid settings that people can choose from with the advantages. These are based on their industry, based on their approach. So in that sense, it's about my approach is to inspire people to experiment. I have a lot of tools that are easy to use, tips, facilitation guides, a lot of activities that people can adopt within their organizations. And it's for them to try them and see which one stick, which one works,
Mm.
and which one shouldn't be adopted by any means. So it's every leader should define their own journey, and that's the most important thing. I think the media keeps talking like it should be what's the right model, like it's a one model that's going to work across all industries, across all size of companies, across all types of leadership, and that for me is what's wrong.
No, I love that. Just common sense, just right to the point. That's exactly what I was hoping to get from the slightly convoluted question that I asked. So and I'm not going to ask you to give all of those steps and all of those practices and all of those examples. We're going to save that for folks to go get the book. We're going to tell folks to go get the book, and I will leave a description to the book off of Amazon, so folks can go get that. Listen, you got the Kindle version. So you need to do an audiobook. I'm huge on Audible now.
Yeah,
So if you did an
yeah.
audiobook and you
I
would
already
read,
hired a firm to take care of that. They're working on it.
man, listen, that would be
I'll
on
let you
my
know. I send you a copy for
my
sure.
gym
Yeah.
playlist, next month right there. So that would be pretty cool right there. But no, I will definitely make sure that this is in the description. And congratulations to you. I see #1 bestseller in office management in the category of office management on Amazon. Um, let me ask this: where does your firm fit in? So where does Culture Design Canvas fit in? How do they are they Do they work together? Are they slightly separate, slightly equal? What kind of things do you provide from that perspective as opposed to the book itself?
I think in the book I share a lot of tools and processes and learnings because there's a lot of I interviewed a lot of people, so it's not just my point of view. There's a lot of professionals,
Hmm.
teams that have been struggling with different work scenario, teams that are experimenting. One thing that for me it's important that I showcase some companies that are not even the traditionals. It's not just tech companies that we all know, like you mentioned Apple. Of course, we talk about Apple, but for example, there's other organizations like Fannie Mae, a
Hmm.
government-based
Yeah.
company that feels boring, whatever, but they've been disrupting how they operate because of the pandemic. And I share their examples. Our firm basically uses some of the principles that I share in the book. And what we do is three things. We offer training. We have a lot of classes, master classes, and workshops for people who want to learn the different tools that we have so they can adopt them and use them in their organizations. We also do a lot of team upsides workshops for leaders specifically and senior executives. And lastly, we do consulting. So there are firms that try to revamp their culture or they're trying to redefine how to their come back to the office should look like and things like that. So they hire us a regular consultant to help them design that journey.
Awesome. What has been the biggest challenge coming back to the office that, you know, companies that hire you to come in and do the consulting, right? Do the culture design, do the culture assessment. What's kind of probably the one, two, or three top things that leaders and executives are saying, this is my biggest challenge today of building out an effective hybrid workplace. And I keep talking about post pandemic. Eventually, I'll get out of that. But again, that's still unfortunately that's a reality. But what's the biggest challenge that you're hearing a lot of leaders talk about?
The point is, we have like three phases, right? You talk about pre-pandemic, the pandemic, and post-pandemic. So before the pandemic, there was a way in which most people didn't question how they work,
Mm,
and it was a given, and we all copied what we learned from our previous jobs, from our own leaders. Then the pandemic forced everyone to adopt a remote work, disrupted how we worked, and people were not prepared. Very few companies had the technology, the expertise, the policies, and many other stuff to adapt to that stuff. So people were able to figure it out first without resources, then they started learning and acquiring resources. And now we have a choice. So leaders have a choice to say, hey, now that we can choose based on what we used to do and what we did during the pandemic, what are the best practices from each world that we
mm,
want to take to the next world? And that's the biggest challenge. Many leaders want to go back to how things used to be. Many employees want to stay with the same practices they had during the pandemic. So we have a very big divide. We have leaders and employees feels that they have different things, and for me the issue is like we don't have the right conversation. We are not asking ourselves the right question, which is how can we do our best work? What are the conditions that are going to help our teams do the best work? So now it's more of a power struggle between leaders and people, and it's not getting nice or nicer by the minute.
so you will always have something to do. Yeah, you will not be bored in this niche of consulting workshops and training that you've carved out for yourself. I love that. Uh,
For sure.
I, I guess finally let me ask this because that was kind of a tail into a question that I had about companies maybe just getting started with thinking about hybrid work and what could they do and what kind of advice that you would have for them. And I kind of was answered there, but how long do you think we'll be in this mindset or mode of even considering hybrid work? Do you think we will be having these conversations short, mid, and long term, 1, 3, 5 years down the road, or will we completely do a 180 and go back to all hybrid? Completely tell everyone if you want to work for this company, you're going to come in the office. What are your thoughts if you had that crystal ball, that magic 8 ball about what we're doing from a hybrid workplace perspective?
To be honest, I think it's going to take more than 3 years to settle, if it settles. And there are two things. I think that before people start talking about a potential recession, especially in the US, people felt that they have all the power, so employees were dictating the terms, so to speak. When we started talking about, hey, there's a recession coming around the corner, then leaders took back to, no, I'm going to become more strict and be more autocratic, if you wish, about how things should work. We still haven't seen that. I mean, that employment had went down actually last month. So I think that we're going to see a lot of recalibration, because companies that felt that they have more power, they're seeing that the best talent still have the choice to go where they want to go. So it's going to take a lot of time to find what the new model looks like, for sure.
Again, you are going to be busy for a little while. Listen, that's good stuff, right? That's good. So again, I'm a technologist, and I notice things. I noticed so I got to ask a technology question, and I noticed the AI tracking on the camera. Which camera are you using right now to move?
It's a Lumina camera. It's
That's
really
a good
good.
one.
It's
Okay.
tiny. Yeah, it's really good, and yeah. Because when I'm presenting, I like to move, and the camera kind of follows me. And that's
yeah, you get your stand hours too, right, on your Apple Watch. So that's good stuff. Gustavo, this has been a good conversation, man. Again, I think I wanted to be clear, concise, and I wanted to hear your thoughts in terms of what you provided in the book, what your company does in terms of the consulting, the workshops, and the training activities, things of that nature. I've got your links that will be in the description as well, in terms of how people can get in touch with you personally, like LinkedIn and your website, things like that, and also your company. But I guess in parting, how would you tell folks to move forward? The individuals, so the employees, how would you tell the individual employee to consider progressing forward as they consider hybrid work environments?
I think it's important to understand. I think avoid the adding more fire to the fire, right? So try to understand your managers. I mean, it's not that managers are saying, "Hey, we want to do this just because they want to." Some may, and try to engage in a conversation. And it's, don't make it about yourself. I would say, like, your personal preferences matter, but what matters the most is what's good for the team. So if you're going to have pushback, if you have requests, put those requests in the context of how your way of working is going to help the team. If you make it all about yourself, then your leader is going to feel, oh, this feels like completely entitled, complete selfish. I don't care, right? So connect how you want to work with how it's going to help the team do a better work or job.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Folks, Gustavo Razzetti, the book is called Remote, Not Distant. Available in Amazon. Featureculture.design is the website. Mr. Razzetti, I appreciate you. Go enjoy the rest of your day, and get to work, man. You got some you got some work.
I have to go to work, right? Yeah. Enough talking.
I love it.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Ron, for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Be well.